Yeah, that's a good point. But I honestly, like, as cool as this watch is, it's because of the digital world, like, it does, I do have to take a minute and be like, okay, that's right, this is how to tell time, like originally how we tell time. And I can't do it as fast as I do it with a digital clock, obviously. Cool, y'all. So it's good.
This is very exciting.
Yes, it is exciting.
Thank you for being here and for doing
Thank you for having me. Honestly, this is fun. Looking forward to this. Looking forward to it. It's gonna be new. It's gonna be new. I know this is new for y'all, so it's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know.
And I don't know. I know we were just talking a minute ago of like, I don't want you to feel like you came here just to talk about breath work. There's like so much more to you than just that. And I don't want you to feel like, oh, great, now I got to talk about like breath work for an hour and a half. It's just, I know it's very important to you and it's very important to your life, but I also like there is so much more
Thank you.
to you than just that. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, you can just introduce yourself, I guess, a little bit for people who don't know. And then we can just kind of get right into it. You know?
Yeah. So my name is Joe Longa. Been doing things of the personal healing and personal development now for about 13 years, which is crazy to say out loud. But I was in a dark place in my life, real dark, real dark. So much so that I was genuinely considering checking out. I just didn't want to be here anymore. I was suffering from severe panic attacks, deep depression, anxiety, so much so that I couldn't really leave my house that much, and I needed to find a way out. And I thought that way out was checking out of this planet. And unfortunately, a really close friend of mine took his own life, and it sent me into a bit of a shock because I also couldn't take medication because of past history with drug abuse, and the medications that they wanted to give me and to deal with my anxiety and depression were things that I would use as recreational drugs. So I started on this journey of just trying to understand what it was that was causing me to behave like this and act like this and understand myself more. And I think that that was one of the big cornerstones of the beginning parts of my healing, was figuring out what's actually causing this stuff. Where is the root? And it was difficult. It took a long time to start unwinding that long, twisted road of things that got me to that place. It did. It took a while. But the more and more I stepped into it willingly with this open heart of like wanting to learn because I knew there was no way out, I started understanding myself, and I started finding these modalities like breath work, like meditation, like cold plunging, journaling, groups, having a coach. All of those things became the way to get to a place now where I can actually teach this stuff, you know, and help people out. So that's a big mission of mine. Big mission.
How old were you when do you think you started kind of like realizing, because I know for some people it's like, at least in my experience with people that like I've talked to over the past, is like, oh, I was like in Christopher's example, he was like pretty young, you know, or some people don't really have that experience until they're a bit older.
Yeah. So when I was a little kid, I was picked on real bad. So I was a bit of a different kid. Like, I was into different music, I wore different clothes, and I really only had one friend who kind of understood that, a kid that lived in my neighborhood, my buddy Jonathan. And it was just like him and I, like, we had our own little crew of like listening to different types of music and wearing really interesting clothing and having long hair and painting our fingernails black, and you know, we were different. And that's really when it started, the realization that I'm just I play in a different realm than the average person, and because of that, I started getting picked on. And for the beginning part of my life, even, you know, as young as like third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade, all of that, those years were difficult because of that mental behavior that I had, the real me, the stuff that I was actually interested in. And then I hit a point somewhere around probably my early teenage years, where I started realizing, like, maybe if I just play the game like everybody else, pretend that I like these things, eventually I will, and I won't, and I'll be more accepted. and it was the truth. It did. I was more accepted. Instead of riding dirt bikes and kind of spending more time with my family, I started playing football and stopped doing karate, which is something else that I did. And I played more to what I thought people wanted to see out of me, which panned out for the idea of me not being made fun of anymore. But later along my journey, I discovered that that was a lot of the reason that I began to experience anxiety later in my early 20s, because I was not being authentic. I was not living who Joe was. I was living for what I thought people wanted me to be. And I got real
short-term solution,
but I got real good at it. And I almost convinced myself that that's who I was, that this is who I was. And as life went on and some other traumatic things happened in my life, things that were my identity. I grew up in an Italian family. We would have Sunday dinners religiously every single Sunday as a giant Italian family. And right around 17, 18 years old, that collapsed. So my family started breaking apart. My grandfather, who was the patriarch of the family, passed away. When he passed away, it was like the dominoes started falling. My mom and my father my mom and my dad got divorced. Or began the process of their divorce. My uncle and my aunt, who were very much like an older brother and sister, because they were very close in age to me at the time. They took me everywhere and did everything with me. They started splitting up. My other uncle split up with his wife, and it was just like, whoa, things are falling apart. No more Sunday dinners. Everything just seemed to start going in a really dark direction. And on top of that, I wasn't being who I really was. So I started to find things to numb out. Essentially, I didn't know it at the time, which is really funny, because before all of this happened, like my earlier years in high school, like I was a dare camp counselor. I used to make fun of my friends, not even make fun of them. Like I would try to help my friends who were doing drugs and numbing out, essentially, and be like, you shouldn't be doing this. Like, I did all this research. This is what's happening to you. You should probably not do this, like at such a young age. And then another layer of me joining the crowd was when all of this stuff started happening. I just was like, I get why you're doing this now.
Your drug addicted friends are like, we're doing all this research. You got to try this stuff.
Yeah. They were doing a totally different kind of research than I was, but I was witnessing how they were having what I looked like fun from the outside. It looked like something enjoyable. The parties were cool. Girls, the whole deal. Everything just seemed like maybe I just need to go down this road. Everything else is falling apart. Like, why would I be the good little boy that I've been? It's not panning out. I actually got real frustrated with. I wasn't a real religious kid, but like I was one of those kids. I had to go CCD. My Nana is hyper religious. Goes to church like twice a week.
I think all of our nanas are.
Yeah,
she made me go too.
So it's like, because of that, like I thought, like I played the good little Catholic boy. Like I wanted to be a good kid. I did. I genuinely wanted to be a good kid. My dad was a super aggressive disciplinarian. Like I was afraid of him. So it was a reason not only to be good for being a good Catholic kid, but also being a really good kid so I don't get the shit kicked out of me by my father. But I just started recognizing that, like, as good as I'm being, life is not throwing me cards that I expected when you were good. Like, I'm doing my job and I'm not getting paid. Like, that's how it felt. So I started going down the dark road. Like I remember like the first time that I was like, you know what, maybe I'll just start doing, I'll smoke some weed with my friends. And that's where it started. There's a whole other list to this too that I'll get to in a little bit, that I recognized later in my healing journey that I also think is something I was numbing out that I wasn't aware of until later in my journey. But yeah, I started using drugs. Which felt good, like I was starting to numb out. I was beginning to be accepted. I have a bit of a loud personality. Like I'm really hyper, And drugs exacerbated that, and it allowed me to kind of drop a lot of my guards. Like I had a lot of fun. Like, you know,
That's what I was gonna say too. Is like when I never really like dove deep into all of that, but like, whatever. And then the more you do it, it's like, oh well, you're just like, you're the fun friend. Like you become the fun friend, and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I remember like one thing that sticks vividly in my mind. I had this hat. I'm a big hat guy, and I had this hat that I would wear all the time. And one night at a party, I brought a marker, and I was just like, sign my hat. And this turned into this event that like every party I'd go to, I'd just kneel down and people would start writing stuff on my hat. And I had this hat for so long, and I was just a loud personality. Like it was exciting. It was fun. I felt accepted. All of the stuff that I dealt with as a little kid, feeling not accepted, was now gone. And I was part of like the crowd. I really was. And what was interesting is as high school started to go away, I was also a really, really like, I wasn't good at school. I wasn't smart, but I knew if I just worked hard, I could be. So my first couple of years of high school, and all through before that, I would work really hard to make sure that I was going to go somewhere educationally. But once this party started, right around my late junior year, I just decided to turn off. Like I was a wrestler, and I was really shitty in the beginning, and then I worked really, really hard to get really good. And then as the drugs and the partying came in, I didn't give a fuck anymore. I genuinely just didn't give a shit. And in fact, I actually, kudos to my coach and a couple of the older seniors, they actually tried to pull me out of it. I'll never forget being at this house that wasn't the best places to be, and some of the seniors had actually driven to the house and knocked on the door and tried to get me to leave the house. They were like, dude, you got potential, like don't stop doing this shit. And I was like, fuck you, man, like you don't know me, you don't know my life. And I was really just going down the darker and darker road. And then towards the end of high school, where most people kind of start to turn this stuff off, unless they go to college and play a little bit more and then eventually turn it off there, I hit a really strange place where I lost all aspiration. Like I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know where I was going to go. I quit wrestling midway through my senior year. So I had no potentiality of taking that into any college future in wrestling, which I probably could have. And I didn't even have any plans after school. I was like, fuck this. I was really going hard. I would hang out at a trap house with one of my other buddies who was going through it at the time, with kids that were exponentially older than we were. I saw a lot of scary shit in that house. I really, really did. And I eventually, like, high school came, and I was like, it came to an end, and I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with myself? Fortunately, I was into art, found a really cool school to go to, but it fueled this fire of me not being present and utilizing things to numb out. In fact, because it was art school, I genuinely thought that what I was doing would just make me a better artist. Like I'm going to be a real like a deep artist because like I smoke a ton of herb and like I do all these drugs and it like makes I'm creative now. And for a while, it was like that. I really was. Like, I mean, I had a great group of kids that I went to school with. Like, we had a fucking blast at that school. We really did. But it ended. It was only a 2-year school. It was a very unique learning how to be a signs painter. And then I left. And when I left, I started looking around and realizing everybody that I used to party with, all the people that were doing the things that I were doing were no longer really doing this stuff in the same way anymore. A couple of kids got bit by the opioid virus, and that was tough to watch. I lost a few friends through it. And I started noticing that like everybody's kind of cleaning up their lives. And I wasn't. But I was not recognizing that I wasn't cleaning up my life. I just didn't know what to do. So I just took steps to kind of be better and try to be in a position where I was making something of myself. But I was so clouded up over those years that I didn't even really know what I was doing. I went to work in a sign shop where it was filled with hippies. Like the whole industry is filled with hippies. Like doing what I did was not only accepted, it was welcomed. We were all some sort of addict in some sort of way throughout the industry. Like, I didn't ever have to worry about sitting around with a group of sign painters and being like the oddball out that did drugs. Like, we all did something. So I felt, I'm like, I'm okay. This is what's going to be my life. These guys are grown adults. They run businesses. They're good. And then after years of it and watching like friends get married, buy houses, just clean their act up, I started just recognizing that, like, I'm not in a good place, man. Like, this is starting to get bad. And then somewhere around my mid-20s, I was really experiencing heavy anxiety and panic attacks. I actually can distinctly remember my first one. My wife worked at a really nice salon. And my wife and I have been together since we were teenagers. We were 17 years old when we met. So she was working in this really nice salon. She had gone to hairdressing school, and this was like a salon and day spa that was very prestigious. All the Patriots players went there, like their wives went there. It was a really nice place. And they had a holiday party. And I hadn't really been in the mix of any of it throughout that time because I just was doing my sign maker thing and kind of my hippie lifestyle. So I hung out with a lot of people that were like me, and I never felt like an outsider. Well, I went to this holiday party and I walked through the door of that place, and within 3 steps of walking in, I was like, oh boy, these aren't my people. They're on a whole different, like, look at them. Like, they're all put together and like, holy shit. And I started having a panic attack. It was my first one ever. And I never had one before like this, ever. I'd always been, like I said, picked on and stuff when I was a kid, but I never felt panic or anxiety. I just felt sadness, which was different, totally. But like, I walked 2 feet into this house and I had full tilt, full body from head to toe. I was dripping with sweat. It was coming down the back of my knees. My shirt was soaked through. People were asking me if I was okay. I didn't know how to answer it. I was just like, yeah, I'm fine. I don't know what's going on. I just don't feel good. I went outside, thought I could cool myself off, come back in. It happens again. Eventually I just got my car and I left. And that was the beginning of something that started just staying with me. And it got to the point where in the beginning it was just people I didn't know. And then it was people that I knew. And then it was my family. And then it was everything. I couldn't go out to a grocery store. I'd think about it, start panicking, push myself to get in the car, get to the parking lot, be panicking. Sometimes I'd get good enough to get inside and I'd walk 2 feet in the door and turn around, go back in my car and go home. And once this got really bad, I was, like I said in the beginning, like, I was starting to get worried. Like, I'm not happy. This life sucks. And this is right around the time that my good friend I didn't even know he was going through dark times. I genuinely didn't. My buddy Mike was like, I thought I was the life of the party. Hell no. Mike could make a room of people pay attention to him, an entire party, hundreds of people just stop and listen to him talk and joke and make the whole place go up in roars of laughs. No one ever expected that he was in a shitty spot. And I got a phone call one morning that, hey, I think Mike might have done something bad. And I was like, no, it's Mike. He's joking with people. I went on his social media. I'm like, look at the picture he put up. Like, this is him joking. Like, he'll come out of the woodwork in a little while. He probably drank too much last night. And by the end of the day, it was confirmed that he had taken his own life. And I was like, fuck, dude, this is no good. Because I was in a place at that point where I was in those dark thoughts. Like, a light ran through my mind quite a bit. And the only time it had ever run through my mind before this was when I was a little kid from getting picked on. And I actually did attempt something as a little kid. I put my karate belt around my throat. I hung myself like over my banister in my bed and started to black out, and it scared me. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do this. And I hadn't had thoughts about it ever until this started happening, until the anxiety started happening. And like I said, Mike took his own life. I knew I couldn't go get medication because I would just really go deep. And then I hit this hard road and I was like, fuck, man, I'm going to have to live like this for the rest of my life. I don't like this. Right around that time, just boyfriend and girlfriend with my wife. Before that, we were just, like I said, we were just boyfriend and girlfriend. I make this decision, this crazy decision that we were already taking her niece, which was my niece too, because I had watched her grow up. She was 10 years old at the time, or about to be 10, and we were going to take her to Disney World to have her 10th birthday. She kind of had a rough upbringing. She didn't really have a lot of attention paid to her, and we were the ones who paid attention to her. So we're like, let's take her to Disney World, and we'll have a great time with her there and show her what a good birthday can be. And in my mind, I was like, and I'll propose to Desiree while I'm there. This was going to be great. Forgetting that I live.
Go to the grocery store.
Yeah. Forgetting that I live with like this hell on a daily basis. I can't talk to relatives on the phone without being like, yeah, I got to go. You know, like really bad. And I don't know why I thought this. And honestly, it's probably was something higher than me that made this all happen, because this was the beginning of my healing. We go to Disney World. The day we get there, we start going to parks, and I realized like this was a terrible idea. This is a terrible idea. There are so many people, and you have to communicate when you're standing in line for an hour sometimes with people. And more often than not, I would get into a line or go into one of the rides, and I would have a panic attack. I'd have to leave the line, and I'd go sit in a bathroom stall while my niece and my future wife were on rides. And it sucked. It was terrible. The day came that I had chose to propose to her, because we were going to Magic Kingdom that day where the castle is, and I was going to do it all in front of the castle. Like I had this whole big plan. Oh, it's going to be great. Didn't know that when you propose to someone in front of the castle, it's a spectacle. Like,
it's literally like the biggest spectacle.
The biggest spectacle ever.
People, I feel like they probably have one of those, like, it's been 0 days since this workplace has had a proposal.
Yes, dude. Literally, I kneel down in front of that castle, do the whole proposal thing, and a flood of people. I don't know who they are. People want to take pictures of you. They want to say hi. They think it's great. They want to congratulate you. I'm melting down. Yeah. Fucking melting down, absolutely losing my mind. Couldn't wait to get out of this little circle of people. I gotta go back to the hotel. You guys can go swimming or something. Like I gotta go lay down. Like this took so much out of me.
Is this before or after your friend Mike?
This is after now. So now I'm in that place where I'm like, I'm just dealing with this. Like I had no frame of reference of where or what I was going to do to fix this problem. I didn't. I just thought that there are people that live with stuff like this, and there are people that aren't. And unfortunately, ironically, actually, what I thought is that because I had made the decision to do all the drugs and all the stuff, and like stop being the good little Catholic boy and this is my punishment. Mm-hmm. Like this is why I'm getting punished now. I'm going to live like this.
You'd spent your whole life thinking there was something wrong with you anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not that hard of a sell.
Yeah, I was like, dude, this is just it.
Throw it on the pile.
Yeah, I'm gonna live with this because this is what I get. This is what I deserve. I genuinely thought that. Then we go there. It's our last day in Disney World, and we went to what was Pleasure Island back in the day. And we're in a store, and I am having another panic attack right in front of the bookshelf. And thank God for my wife, Desiree, went up. It was like a metaphysical store. They sold crystals and incense and self-help books and all that type of stuff. And honestly, I think the reason I went in there is because I was starting to get an inkling, like I need to do something alternative. I didn't know what yet, but it was just like my higher self was like, just go in this store. So I'm panicking. I'm full body sweats, can't breathe, feel like I'm going to die. Desiree goes up and talks to the clerk at the desk and says, hey, listen, it's been a hell of a week. Really, really not enjoying ourselves here. But my fiance is having a panic attack over there, and he's been dealing with this now for a while, and it's like been really hard this week. Is there anything you can recommend or anything you can do for him? And I wish I knew who this woman was. Like I do. I would love to I wish I could find her and knew who, because she set the stage for me making a change in my life. She came up, she put her hand on my back. She said, sweetie, you are going to be just fine. This is all going to go away. Read this book right here. She gave me a book by Jerry and Esther Hicks. It was called Getting Into the Vortex. It had a CD inside that had meditations in it. CD, like an actual compact disc yes, a compact disc. And I was like, okay, this is maybe something I had no options. So I was all in on whatever anybody had to suggest. So I couldn't really read well, super dyslexic. So I was like, I'm going to try to read this book, but moreover than anything, I'm going to use a CD. So on the flight home, I remember sticking the CD into my Discman, aging myself, and I'm listening to it, and it's telling me to do these breathing, these types of breath exercises while closing my eyes and allowing my thoughts to pass by. And in the beginning, it was torture. Like, I honestly was like, what is this? This is stupid. This is actually worse than having a panic attack, because now I'm living and listening to this like on hyper volume, all of this stuff just getting shot into my brain. But I was so fucking desperate to get away from this that I was like, I'm going to commit to doing this. Whatever it is, I'm just going to commit to doing this, because it's either this or I'm just going to like find a way to accidentally check out by numbing myself to the point where it'll end up happening, which happened to a lot of my other friends through opioids. So I started on the meditation CD. It took 2 years of me meditating. And in this time, actually, my wife and I split for a short period of time. And a lot of this was because the only other thing that I found that was getting me out of my head at the moment was fitness. The only thing that I would go to the gym and like, I didn't think. It was like, I didn't feel, I didn't think, I was focused. I started making some physical changes in myself. So I got kind of addicted to it. And unfortunately, through that time, my Desiree and I had been together so long at this point that I didn't think I had to be involved as a partner anymore, that I could just kind of do my own thing and that we're good. Like, we've been together a long time. I got a ring on your finger now. Like, I can go fix this problem. I don't need to pay attention anymore. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. She had discovered that she was upset and sad. So she made a move and found someone else for a bit. And I found out about that. And when I did, I was like, we need to take a step back. And which was really, really difficult, because I'm in the darkest places in my life right now. But it was actually probably one of the best things that could have happened to not only me, but both of us. So when I decided to have her move out of my apartment, I had still been trying to do this meditation stuff now for quite a while and really struggling with it. I would do it every day, but genuinely it was just like me going through the motions, and it wasn't fun. It wasn't. But this one evening, I'm in my apartment by myself, and I know no one's there. Doors are locked. It's pitch black. I'm going to sit in one of these meditations again. Sitting down, I have my eyes closed, and I can feel this dark presence over me. Like, it felt like if you have your eyes closed and you can feel like someone walks in front of you, you feel that shadow effect. That's what it felt like. And the voice in my head kept telling me to just open my eyes and check. And I was like, no. Like, I know no one's here, but me and my dog, like, I'm not opening my eyes. I wouldn't do it. And it got louder and more intense. Just check. Just open your eyes. Just check. And the more and more I resisted, this thing just kept, like, it felt like it was going to land on top of me. And I resisted it up until the point where it was like, if you blow smoke on something and the smoke dissipates around it, behind it, and then it's just like that thing is still sitting there with the smoke behind it. That's what it felt like. And I got into this zone where I was like, holy shit, I think I'm meditating. Like, something's happened. Like, I'm calm and I'm watching my thoughts now without gravitating and trying to fix every thought that came into my mind. And that was the beginning of like, I get this stuff that they're talking about now. So I went on a meditation journey, discovered through one of my meditations that I remembered, I shouldn't say discovered, I remembered. I had an inkling that something to happen to me when I was a little kid, when I was around 5, but I just kind of blocked it out, because you do this when something bad happens to you. And I vividly had a reliving of the molestation that I had from an older kid in my neighborhood through a meditation. I processed that. I began to start doing more of the breath side of the meditations, like incorporating breath with meditating. And this took me down this road of like breath work. Let's try to do some intense stuff. Got with a group of dudes who were also experiencing the same thing as me, which I was super grateful for. A friend of mine reached out. He's like, hey, he was in recovery. Met this dude while he was in recovery, and he's like, he does like these groups where like he gets together and they just hang out and like talk and do breath work together and stuff. Maybe you should go. So I was like, screw it. I got to keep going. I got to figure this out. So I went to one of those, started doing more heavy breath work, and started to clear my shit up. As I started to clear my shit up, I was like, I'm going to start a podcast.
Mm.
Like to talk about this, because this is really when podcasts is really started coming out. We're in like that early stages of how all that started to blow up. So I start this podcast, and I end up having this gentleman on I found him through Instagram, and his name was Ben Holt, and he was starting this breathwork thing, and he was starting to do these courses, and he talked all about it on my podcast. And I was like, wow, it's really cool. And then he invited me to be a participant in his course to learn how to do this stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'm on this train. Let's keep going. At this point, we've moved along. I've gotten back together with my wife now. We've worked through that issue, which was a very important thing that we did, because we both needed to kind of go and find ourselves and clean our own stuff up and recognize why we needed to be apart for a little bit, because we had kind of grown up and then grown apart, and then realized that, yeah, we were good apart for a little bit, but we actually needed to be together, even though we're polar opposite people, which is why I think we are together. But I started doing these breath exercises, getting really, really clear. And one day I remember just going out and not having a panic attack. Like, we went to like a grocery store or something, and I was like, holy shit, like, I just made it through that whole day without feeling panicky. Like, I'm having little bits of anxiety, but not having the panic attacks. Mm. And I was like, holy shit, maybe there's something to this. And I kept going. And then I decided to get certified, and I got certified to be a breathwork practitioner. Started participating more in all the things, coaching, plant medicine ceremonies, everything. Up until present day, I was still using cannabis as a means to numb out. And this is just a recent development in literally the past 4 months that I went to a men's retreat, which is part of this whole development process. In that men's retreat, I had to abstain from cannabis before I went, but we did a cannabis ceremony right before a heavy breathwork ceremony one night, and I had a absolute pop-off moment where like God, I will fully say it was God, because that's what it felt like came to me. It was just like, you've had the opportunity to get away from this for so long, and you just got this one thing that's in the way, and you're not using it for what it's supposed to be used for. You're using it to just numb yourself away. And I was like, holy shit, okay. And I listened to it only in that evening. The next day I tried to use cannabis again, and it didn't work. I actually started feeling the old levels of panic attack, discomfort, and a couple days after getting home, I just made the realization that I need to stay away from this. And now I'm in this level of healing where I'm coaching people, I'm helping other people not numb out. So yeah, long story, but the truth is, I went from being this kid who loved life, everything fell apart, and I began to hate it. And I didn't want to be in it anymore. I chose to stay here on this planet and fight through it and lean into all this darkness enough to the point where I got to the other side of it. I turned head on into the storm, and I got to the other side of it, and now I can see so many others who are in that storm, and I'm like, yo, I got an answer for you. It's not going to be a quick fix. That's the biggest issue for most of the people who will get into the stuff that I do, is that it is not a quick fix. It is a process. But on the other side of that process, you build this resilience and this understanding of who you are and why. That's the biggest one for me. Why all this happened. And for me, it's just like anything else. If you understand why this cap comes off a certain way, it makes it real easy to take it off. But if you just look at it and be like, how do we take the cap off of how do we drink the water? You can't do it. So that understanding got me to a place where I'm like, all right, I get me. And I started seeing me in other people. And I was like, dude, I got to help these people, because the medications only put a blanket over it. And 9 times out of 10, you got to keep adding more to get away from it. You do. You just like, there comes a point in time where it stops working. So they add something else, and they add something else, and they add something else. And all the while, you are losing who you really are. The real you that's inside of you, the little kid that when they were asked, what do you want to do when you grow up? And you'd be like, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a firefighter. Like you had this imagination and this love, like nothing was getting in your way of being you as a kid. That part of you begins to come back. And I think a genuine, a productive adult in this world has the capability of using their imagination still and believing that anything is possible. And that's what I was able to get out of 22 years or so of real deep dark shit. So yeah.
What was it that gave you like hope that things could get better? Like that you could open that water bottle?
I actually think that moreover than anything, that it was this no way out type of mentality. So it wasn't necessarily hope. It was I didn't have an option at this point. So the only thing that kept me moving during that was, what else am I going to do?
We had another option.
Yeah. Yeah. The only other option that I had was to live with it.
You had mentioned that losing your friend, like your friend taking his life, was a moment that obviously shocked your system. Like not just a matter of like losing your friend and like that being a shock in itself, but in the context of like your own experience and your own story where you were contemplating the same thing.
Yeah.
What was it about that experience? What was it about your friend committing suicide, taking his own life?
Yeah.
That kicked you in the other direction?
Oh, this is a great question. So,
and that's what I mean by like hope. Because for me, my experience early on was, this isn't good. This is terrible. I hate this. Everybody else hates it. Like nobody else wants to be around me in this way. And it's never going to get better. But I think the first thing that I had to see was that, oh, maybe it can get better.
yeah.
And like the early stages of that for me was getting involved, talking to people that had been where I was, but aren't anymore.
Yeah.
And the way that they would talk to me was, we would talk about our experiences and grow an understanding that like, oh, okay, we're coming from the same area here. But they got better. They recovered. And I didn't understand how that happened. It wasn't a short road.
Yeah.
I didn't think that I could do it. I didn't think I deserved it. I didn't think I could earn it. But just like you said, like I didn't have another choice. So like I think I had hope that, okay, if they can do it and we were the same at one time,
yeah,
then maybe I can do it.
Oh, so this is beautiful. So when Mike took his own life, I knew it was a solution for him to not feel pain anymore. I got that. That made sense because I didn't know how much of pain he is until I talked to his little brother and he told me the note that he left and he was in pain. So I knew that was his avenue of not having to deal with that pain anymore. But and I'm not sure what made me realize this other than I actually am. It was witnessing that he wasn't here anymore to ever see the other side of what not being in pain might look like. And everybody around him that wasn't in pain before he took his own life suddenly were in some of the deepest, darkest pains I've ever seen in my life, especially his little brother, who is still a really close friend of mine. He went down a dark road. He actually had to be brought back by Narcan multiple times because of going down the road of heroin after his brother passed away. So what that did for me was help me recognize that the solution may temporarily relieve the pain from that particular individual, but they will never get to see the other side of what it feels like to not feel it anymore. And everyone else around them will live with it forever. Forever. And that was a hard pill to swallow. So for me, the hope was that I can see the other side some point in time. So essentially there was a hope that there might be a way somewhere along this line. I don't know when it might be. It could be when I'm 80 that I finally just go, cool, I don't have to deal with this shit no more. I only got a couple of weeks left, but we're good. Gonna be a good couple of weeks. But I recognize, I think the love for the people around me made me realize I don't want to do that to them.
Sure.
That was a big thing.
That's what it was for me for a long time. It was fine if I was in pain. Because I deserved it. Because that's just what I was just sentenced to. Like, it just made sense that, like, this is just the way that it is. This is just the way that my life is going to be. This is, yeah, okay. Like, everybody else seems to just get it, you know, and not have such a hard time of it. But I know how hard my family will feel this. And it's like, oh, okay, I guess I'm just here until I'm not here anymore. Yeah.
But there was, you know, something, it's funny that you say something that's helping me recognize and remembering something in myself. Somewhere along the lines, I had this is later in my personal development journey, that I had realized that I had built an identity of the dark side of myself and was actually utilizing it as a tool to fill my cup, which was that was one of the hardest pills to swallow for me, genuinely, because I recognized that the empathy that I would get from people at times would genuinely make me feel good. It would fill that cup, that void that I was feeling all the time. And I don't mean to call him out, but I gotta, like, my father to this day still does that. He knows that his pain is his tool to feel empathy from others in a way that allows him to feel good for a temporary moment. And it does. I've watched it work 1,000 times. It worked for me. I'd use my anger. I'd use my sadness. I would project it out. Somebody would receive it, and they'd come in and they'd
like comfort you.
Comfort me.
Yeah.
And that comfort would be like, oh, there it is. That's the love I can't give myself. That's the love that I need right now. And as great as it was temporarily, what I also recognized is I was sucking the life out of certain people that were really close to me, because they got sick and tired of doing this. They got sick and tired of rubbing my back. And they would show me in ways that I didn't recognize until later that they were tired of pulling me out of the shit.
Trying to, anyway.
Yeah, trying to. And then that was another real difficult moment to sit with and recognize that, like, shit, I have to learn to love myself. I didn't even like saying it. Like, saying it out loud, like, I gotta love me. I got so comfortable with self-hatred, I almost wore it as a fucking badge. Like, yeah, like, fuck this guy. But I can love other people like no one else. I can love the unlovable, and that was like my little play that I
feel
played.
Like New England's greatest export is hatred for self and others.
Yeah, man, I couldn't agree more. And I honestly,
free shipping.
Yeah, expedited. Yeah, it'll be there in a half hour. Just that Amazon drop, a little drone will drop it off right at the. But allowing myself, this is one of the things that I got out of meditation and breath work, because when you do these types of modality, when you do these things, you have to push yourself into very uncomfortable places, and you have to sit with it. That's why I like cold plunging so much. Like, you have to sit with it and recognize the voice in your head that isn't your friend. You think it is, but it actually isn't. It makes you believe that you're less than. The first time I ever sat in a cold tub and that voice piped up and was like, get out. This is terrible. You can't handle this. You don't like the cold. Don't you remember? Like, this isn't what we do. And I remember, like, listening and being like, shut the fuck up. I'm staying in the tub. like I'm staying in the tub. Like, who are you to tell me that I can't stay in the tub? And I think it's hard for people to recognize that we do. We have voices in us that one is our higher self, one is our lower self. It's like a movie. They're on either side of your shoulder. Your higher self whispers, and it sometimes only whispers once. That's the trick of it. The lower self will scream, kick. It makes a ruckus. It's like a little kid that wants a fucking popsicle at 12:30 at night when you've been trying to get him to go to sleep all night long. And you're like, you're not having a fucking popsicle. And it's like, yes, I am. Watch. And it will go to any lengths and any means necessary to get what it wants. But we train that piece of us because it's the ego. The ego comes in at the most vulnerable times of our lives. And for me, I was 5 years old. An older boy took advantage of me, and my ego had to step in and protect me. And it did in some way that I don't even know at that point in time in my life. Like I couldn't even really peel back the layers enough to know whatever it did that day to protect me. The choice that I made that day was that this thing takes care of me. So every time something came to soften the blow, whether it was drugs, alcohol, numbing out, being angry, utilizing all those tools, I listened to it because it fucking worked for a really long time until it didn't. And when it stopped working, that's when life started getting real hard because then the people that I loved and cared about started peeling off. And life just started becoming to this place where I was like, this just sucks. Like, this sucks. This whole game is terrible. Why would people do this? Why would people live life? And it was a wake-up point where I'm not listening to this other part of myself, this higher part of myself. I'm not putting myself in position. I'm not doing what I know I can do. I'm just not willing to do to fix this. I'm just not. I'm taking the easy road out more often than not. And that easy road sometimes looks like a hard road, but it was the easy road. Getting super pissed off and angry instead of questioning, why am I getting angry right now? Where is this coming from? Let me take a moment. Pointing the finger outside of me. It's not my fault. It's because of that happened to me, this that happened to me. Even what I said all throughout that whole story. My grandfather passed away. My dog got killed a month to the day after my grandfather passed away. My mom and my dad got divorced right after that. This list of like happened to me was what I would say. It all happened to me. I'm just a victim here and I had nothing to do with this. But what I forgot is that I had choices in every one of those moments to go, instead of saying this is happening to me, it's actually happening for me. It's just like when we go to the gym and we pick up a weight that we know, I'm not sure I can pick that thing up. I'm not positive. I want to, I'm not positive. So you try and you can't really, but you keep working at it until the mind and the body makes an adaptation. And one day you pick that thing up, you're like, ha, I picked it up. I did it. That's what facing reality and saying all of these things that feel like negativity that have happened to me, they're actually happening for you. And when you flip that frame around, it can take the darkest of people, the things that have happened, the most insanely disgusting, terrible things that can happen to people, and it can actually make it something that happened for them to become stronger, more resilient. And probably my favorite one out of all this is more understanding. Because every human being out there is going through something. And when you understand yourself and the things that happen for you to help you grow, judgments just start peeling away. Like I've met people with some of the shittiest stuff. And yeah, I get frustrated with them sometimes because they're not willing to do the things that they need to. But I remember that guy in me. I can see it. Like I understand you. Doesn't mean I'm going to give you an out right now. Like I'm going to now, hey, I know that all this stuff hurts and all this bad shit's happening, but it's your choice right now to decide if this has happened for you or happened to you. If you choose happened to you, be prepared for the consequences because they're going to come. And those consequences are going to look like life not being enjoyable. Everybody else is against you. Life has literally fucked you over. But if you've made the other choice and you say that happens for you, the consequence is I get to grow from this. I get to understand from this. I get to live in power over my reality versus a victim of my reality. Being a victim of your reality is a tough way to live, because there's a fucking meteor could come in this house, hit this building alone right now, and yeah, it would suck. But if you survive, you can go, fucked. My luck. Just I have such bad luck. Like, it didn't hit any other building, it hit mine. Why? Why me? And you can live that way, or you can go, damn, that sucked. Like, now we have to rebuild. Like, I have to rebuild me. I hurt myself real bad. I need to repair. Maybe I needed this time to slow down. Maybe I needed to refigure my whole entire life. Maybe this was a gift for me to change, make a change. And as fucked up as it sounds, that's ultimately what we get when we have these moments happen. They give us an opportunity to make a choice. And in the world we live in today, we don't want to make choices. Life has gotten real simple. Although it might not look like it, it has. We have to remember that people went in covered wagons across the plains in the winter. Women birthed babies outside with.
No, I kind of joke about this every once in a while. Like, wasn't that long ago where, like, if you had to move, like, one of you might die from, like, dysentery. Like, we've played the game.
Yeah.
Like Oregon Trail.
Yes. Yeah. Like, I remember it.
It's getting thrown around now with certain political stuff. But
we are just living in a time that life has become exponentially simple. And because of it, we are running out of we're losing our backbone. You and I have talked about this in coaching a lot, that we're losing we're forgetting that we are really resilient people. Like, we've made it this far, damn it.
Yeah.
Like, we've made it really far. And as life gets easier, we get weaker. When you go through this shit, this darkness, you can strengthen yourself through it. It's not going to be fun. That's the caveat. In a life where things are real fun, you can swipe on your phone, you can get something delivered to you in a nanosecond, like we just talked about.
Hey.
Yeah. You can go see a movie.
Hate delivered.
You can get whatever you want. You can hate, or a pizza, like, or something off of Amazon.
Yeah.
It can come right now, and we don't have to go through this struggle of wait and wonder.
We use Chad.
Yeah, we use Chad. Like, we have these things. For anybody who's wondering, Chad is AI.
Chad is Chat GPT.
Yeah, it's a good friend.
I thought it was Chad. So that's what we call him now.
Yeah, but like, if we utilize this is the reason I give so much credit to the people. Like, my wife and I's ultimate dream is to live on a homestead. And people look at us like, why would you do that in a world where you don't have to? Because if the shit disappears,
so many ways to answer that question.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? Because if it goes away, if the grid goes down, if we lose electricity today, there will be people, they have nothing. They can't do anything. We used to know how to hunt for our own food. No one understands how to do that. A very rare and small population of people hunt for the idea of getting food. Hunting can be a sport now, and I see that. But for the purpose of survival, when we make a choice to say, let's survive, let's remember how to survive again, all of this stuff that we have can be a bonus instead of a crutch. But as we use it as a crutch, look at the world. Look at the world right now. Incapable. So much so to the point that we are now fighting with one another over things that don't necessarily need to be fought over. I made an actual video about this. If we had to go on a covered wagon again across the plains with your cohort of people, the things that you would argue and fight about would be very minuscule, because there's a good chance that Tom, Dick, and Harry over there, and Sally, and Missy, and Judy, all of us have something that one of us can't do. And if You hate me and I hate you. We're going to fucking die.
Right. Understanding that the stakes are a little bit higher.
Yes. And what happens if we...
It's like insulation from... Like, oh, it'll be there later. It'll be there tomorrow.
It'll be there tomorrow.
We just saw that like just a few years ago with COVID.
Look what happened to
this
people.
This product, yeah, it doesn't exist anymore.
And look what happened to people. There were people that fell apart. They couldn't grasp the concept that this life of ease is no longer here anymore. Because the muscle, just like picking up that weight, had atrophied. So stepping into the darkness of your life and challenging it and saying, I'm here for you. You are here for me. I'm here for you now. Let's figure out how to take this darkness and build with it.
Which a lot of people did. You know, a lot of people adapted and thrived too at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And those are the choice points. And that's what the difference between humanity and nature is nature is nature. There's still nature. We have become denatured. We are the only self-actualizing species. We can make the choice to go against nature's drives, which cool concept, genuinely cool concept. But the longer you go away from what nature is trying to show you, somewhere along the lines, nature's going to catch back up and say, you might have wanted to pay attention to this somewhere along here, because guess what? It just got, the power went out and it's 15 below zero. Do you know how to make a fire without a lighter? I mean, I know that's extreme. I do. It's extreme. We live in the 21st century and fuck, you can find a lighter anywhere. I mean, we've all seen the movies like Waterworld and shit like that, where these things will be here, but the chances of you being able to have access to them in a way that create ease is ultimately what it is that I'm trying to say here is make the choice to step into difficulty before difficulty shows up and you haven't made the choice to face it. And then you have to, and there's nothing there to work with because the muscle is atrophied. The thought muscle is atrophied. Like, I can't even think about how to fix this right now. And that's why I look at everything that I've gone through over these past 39 years of my life, that it was not something that I went through and didn't gain anything out of. It all happened for me in a way now that, and it's still like, even now, like there are new things cropping up in my life that I am having to face and turn into. But I'm willing to do it now. Whereas before I would run away from it. I didn't want to face the dark side. I wanted it to be easy. I'd watch these other people who have these quote unquote super easy lives. Well, that's cool, but the clock can run out on that shit. And I just don't want to be caught with my pants down. Like, I'm ready to have the fortification to know that I can handle it when it's working great and I can handle it when it ain't working great. And it's all a choice point. And that's tough for a lot of people to hear, that you actually have a choice. Like, you have a choice. People want to go on autopilot, man. Life's got a lot of cool shit. We have a lot of cool shit we've made as humans. And there are some fun things that we can do. But if you constantly stay away from what's hard and only do what's easy, there'll come a time where the fun stuff isn't fun anymore. And when the hard shit shows up, you ain't going to have jack to be able, you're not going to have any fuel to be able to deal with it.
It is weird how it can be sold as easy pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. But you just made me think of a friend of mine who essentially homeless. He has a place, but by choice, he's on the streets every day.
Yeah.
You know, and if we pass through that area, you know, we make a point to stop and connect. He's just a beautiful guy. He's just even through the circumstances that this isn't anything I haven't told him to his face, you know, or like discussed even at times, that, okay, is he a victim of circumstance? Sure. Mm-hmm. Is he making a lot of choices to stay where he's at? And what has actually been so impressive about this person and this friend is that I've never had to tell him any of this. He's very aware.
Mm-hmm.
He's very aware. And I think that actually is what has made him just approachable and
Mm-hmm.
easy to talk to, is that it's no bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
He gets it. He knows that he's like made these choices. We would talk about like my sobriety.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he and I met by chance in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And like he approached me, and, you know, I engaged a little bit more than I was comfortable with. And all of a sudden, like, we found out some things about each other. Like, holy crap, it's no coincidence that we're talking to each other right now.
Yeah.
And so I see him often. But there's this one time where we were talking about him being on the street.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I just asked him, like, have you had enough?
Mm-hmm.
Have you had enough? Because if you have, I'm so ready to be here
Mm-hmm.
for you. But if you haven't had enough, then like you and I both know that, like, let's talk about something else.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? He was telling me how sobriety is just too hard.
Mm-hmm.
A few other things just along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
And I, for whatever reason, it just hit me. I'm looking around, and he's waiting for every car that stops to see if they're going to give him money or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I just said, you work harder than anybody I've ever met in my entire life. You stand out here for 8, 10, 12 hours, I mean, depending on the season.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to tell me that you're afraid of hard work?
Mm-hmm.
And I've always remembered that conversation, because just like suicide makes sense until
it doesn't.
It either like makes a lot of sense
Mm-hmm.
and you make the decision, or some other thought occurs to you and it just like catapults you in that direction.
Mm-hmm. The reframe.
Yeah.
Everything's how you put, what kind of frame you put it in. You can take a beautiful picture, anything, a picture of a baby. And if you put a picture of a beautiful baby with a frame around it that's got like bleeding heads and like limbs coming off of it, people will look at the picture quickly and then go, I'm not going to look at that fucking picture anymore. They just don't. I'm not, because what's in the frame is beautiful, but the frame that's around it is creating a dissonance between that. And just like your friend, he hasn't been able to take the frame of the kind of hard work it takes him to get a meal every day by standing out there and weathering the storms, weathering the weather, dealing with ridicule, which I'm sure he gets every now and again.
We've seen it.
Yeah.
We have witnessed it
And
ourselves.
that's hard.
And I've probably been guilty of it myself with other people around there, because there are a lot of people that just like don't behave very well in the streets. But
imagine if he reframed it. Imagine if he looked at it and said, I work really, it's because of comfort zones, man. It's what we choose to be comfortable with.
I'm not gonna lie. I was hoping that was gonna be that
his choice point.
That just like kick to the side of the head. Like, well, wait a minute. I do work really hard. Like, maybe not doing this actually could be easier than being on the streets.
I'm actually going to tell you something really quick.
Like, oh, I'm choosing this because this is what I want to do.
So check this out. There's a book. I believe it's called "You Are a Badass at Making Money," and in the book, it talks about this woman who is trying to create an organization to help people, okay, who are poor and who are struggling. And she goes to India, one of the craziestly poor places on the planet. And she's going there to meet this gentleman who is like the most philanthropic gentleman who is in that region. Like, he gives and gives and gives and gives. And she's going there to interview him. And they're walking through the streets, and this guy is stepping over homeless people and shunning people away that are holding babies up to him, saying, I can't feed my baby. I can't feed my baby. And she's watching this like, what the fuck is going on? I came here to talk to the guy that gives the most. So she sits down in the interview and she's like, listen, I have to address the elephant in the room. Like, what just happened out there? Like, why didn't you help these people? I thought that that's what you do. And he goes, you don't understand. They've made this into a business. They've made it into learned helplessness. So much so that women will birth babies. They will cut the arm off of their own child, knowing that it'd be an asset to begging. They literally have rings in bosses who send people out to beg. When we make the choice that this is okay, that it's beneficial, that it's helping, the ego steps in and justifies it. We have to have internal conversations with ourselves. That's why I advocate so much for things like journaling and meditation and stepping into your comfort zone, because it puts you face to face with that part of you that you have to have conversations with. That moment for your friend was there, but he wasn't willing to face it. He wasn't ready to sit and have coffee with the other side of himself that says, isn't it silly that we stand outside in sub-zero temperatures and have people throw shit at us and make fun of us? He wasn't ready for it.
Which is crazy too, because I don't know that he always does this, but one of the signs that he has a small picture of himself when he was in the military.
Wow.
So it's this, like, I mean, it's the flag behind him, the full dress uniform, and early on, and he and I knowing each other, I didn't really trust him completely.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, you know,
makes sense.
I have at that time, like the work that I was doing professionally, we dealt a lot with people on the streets, and you'd learn to realize that not everything is what it seems. You know? And so and this ties into what you said at your most recent breathwork here. He's holding this sign of these two very different images of himself.
Yeah.
For other people to see.
Yeah.
And now that I think about it, sitting here now, I'm like, man, I wish that he could have an experience from looking at himself now versus himself then.
Turn that piece of cardboard around and stare at it long enough.
And you said something the other night when you were here for breath work about and you kind of mentioned it at the beginning of this talk, sitting down, about there are moments in our childhood where our true selves.
Yes.
Something along those lines. And you started to talk in the recent breathwork about when we were kids and like our true natures and things like that. And I had the image in my head of this photograph from grade school where I was clearly just like goofing off, having a time, making myself laugh, trying to make other people laugh.
Yeah.
And for years after I found that photo, it's like that photo was maybe in like 4th grade, 5th grade, somewhere around there. I didn't find it till like, maybe 10 years later. And it broke my heart when I found it, because I didn't recognize that kid. Oof. But that was like the moment of realizing that, oh wow, I'm sheltering myself. I'm protecting myself from the world, because like that kid got hurt a lot in a lot of different ways. And I don't get to be that anymore. But this angry, violent, rageful person isn't me either, and it's not working. And it's wild, because when you brought up that line of talking, whatever it was that you were describing, I had the image in my brain of like me holding that Polaroid and like, oh, I know the moment he's talking about.
Wow, dude. That's so fucking powerful, man, because you just said, and it's truly what happens, is that when we are vulnerable and we are in that state of being in our bliss, we are just like what I just said, we're vulnerable. And when someone takes that away, when something, some moment, some action takes that away, it doesn't feel safe to be that way anymore. But the difference is that when we become adults, we're empowered in the sense that we are adults. Like, we have strength over ourselves. When we're children, we don't. We don't know any better. We don't know the world yet. But that doesn't mean that you can't re-invite that little boy back into your life and say, hey, I know you're in there. Like, I know you're in there. Nothing has really changed other than I've gotten a little taller. I might have lost some hair and gained some here. Like, I'm if I had to ask myself the question, like, I'm still that little kid somewhere deep in there. And the more I push that little kid away, all the imagination, all the freedom goes along with it. because that's when I was imaginative and free. And nothing could tell me that I couldn't do things because I was a kid and I didn't know the world outside of, I can do this. Like, I remember exaggerating about things. I used to skateboard, and I remember telling somebody that, yeah, I'm going to hit this 25-foot skateboard jump, and I'm going to jump some stupid shit like that. And I remember that older kid telling me, dude, you can't do that. And even when they said it, I was like, the fuck do you know? Like, I can imagine this moment living in my little condo complex when I was a little kid, because that's where we are. But then life somewhere along the lines makes us believe outside of us what people are telling us, because something comes in and takes that power away. And then when we break down a little bit and we break down a little more, we buy into the game. We buy into it.
I saw this. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No.
I saw this or heard this thing. This woman talk one time about the way that she put it. I'm probably butchering it, but the way that she put it was like, as adults, we're only afraid of what we know.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you take an adult who's afraid, or like tell them to do something, they're going to be like, well, what if this happens, or what if it's this, or what if this doesn't work, or what if this? And she said, have you ever like seen a toddler just like be alive? They have no fear. That's why so many kids, like, they challenge themselves and they fall and they fucking break their arm, and like they didn't care. They didn't know that breaking their arm was a consequence of like trying to jump and trying to play and trying to be physically challenged and like all of this stuff. That's why little kids in sports are like brutal and ruthless, because they don't know they can get hurt. They don't know. They just do the thing, and then now they gain the knowledge of, oh shit, that hurt, I don't want to do it again. You know. And I think as adults, it's like we are only afraid of what we know, and I find myself doing that all the time to a degree of just like, well, what's going to happen? Like, what's going to happen if X, Y, and Z? Well, what's going to happen to me if I do this? Or what's not going to happen to me if I don't do this? You know? And I think about that sometimes. It's like, I'm literally afraid of what I know.
Yeah.
Not what I don't know.
And one of my favorite sayings tied to that is feeling the fear and doing it anyway, because fear is false evidence appearing real. Yes, these things, there are real consequences to things. And yes, you could really hurt yourself. And yes, you could really lose everything. That's real. But what's also real is, yes, you could succeed. Yes, you could have everything that you ever dreamed of. But we're so protective, especially when we experience trauma. Everybody experiences trauma at some point in their lives, but there are some who experience heavy trauma. And that's when that ultra protective mechanism comes in, where fear now becomes a guidepost of what not to do. And that's why I advocate so much, and I'll say it a million times, of putting yourselves in situations that you know are uncomfortable, but that you know you can tolerate. Like, it is not easy to sit in a bucket of water that is under 30 degrees, especially when it's 9 degrees outside and the wind is blowing. My head will tell me, you're going to die if you get in there. That voice will try to prevent me from getting in there. The higher self in me knows that I can fucking do this. And when I challenge that part of me that says, you can't, and I do it and I win, it's bigger than me just getting out of the tub and having it happen. It translates into that moment when you start a new business venture and you're scared to death and you're like, yeah, oh boy, if I take this pen off, it's real. Like, yeah, it could fail, but yeah, it could succeed. And the only way I'm going to know is by going all the way back to my friend Mike. If he made the choice to say, I can hang around another day, something could have happened that next day that changed everything and got rid of all of those feelings that made him want to do that. Instead, he was so afraid of what could happen next that he canceled himself out. And now he'll never know. Forever. We'll never know. I'll never know what Mike could have been. And the motherfucker had potential. We are so afraid of these negative things happening to us. But the worst thing that happens to us is death. That's the worst thing that can happen because we're not here anymore, right? Go even to your friend. The dude's living a rough life. He's out in the elements. He lives outside. But potentiality still exists for him to one day shift that entire thing and become the dude in the picture again and end up in a home with a wife and a kid and a life that he loves. It's there. We live in this swarm of potential, but we love to find grooves as our brain only has so much bandwidth. And when, again, we come through a world that's getting easier, the idea of stepping into something hard gets less enticing. But for those people who went across the plains, they knew how hard that trek was going to be. But they also knew how hard it was living where they didn't want to be anymore. So they said, I'm going to give this a shot. Good chance we ain't going to make it. But there's also a good chance we could make it. And now we have California and all of our other states on the West Coast. It's choice point living. Living in choice is the thing that human beings have as a gift, and call it a curse, but I think it's a gift. It doesn't mean that you could die. Yeah, that's the worst end result, is that you perish and it didn't work out. But everything other than that is what you frame it as. No matter how dark it gets, if you don't, but did you die? If you don't die, how are you going to use all the darkness that could possibly happen as a means to continue to move forward and gain strength? Sisyphus, the legend of Sisyphus, he had to roll that fucking boulder up the hill every single day. And then it rolled back down, and he had to roll it back up, and it rolled back down and rolled over him over and over and over again. Somewhere along the line, Sisyphus made a choice that I'm getting stronger every time I do this. Every time I get a little bit closer to the top of the mountain. That was his destiny, to push that damn rock up the hill and let it fall back down every single time. One of those times he could have said, why don't I just let this rock roll over me and just like take me out, because this sucks. Because he made the realization that as long as I'm here, I still get the bucket of choices. I still have the choices. They're still here. I have a whole swath of them. As soon as I check out, the choices are gone. They're gone. It's real hard to conceptualize when we live in an easy world. But when you dumb it down to that simple, I'm either here and I have choices, or I'm gone and I don't. That, to me, makes everything easier. No matter how hard the choice is, I still get to make them. That's the gift. Even people who are locked in behind bars, who seemingly have no choice, they still have the choice of how they're going to think about the moment of being behind bars. Nelson Mandela did it. Dude was in fucking prison for a long time. He made a choice. They can lock me up out there. They can't lock me up in here. That's what it's all about. We're the key holders to our entire destiny. It's a big responsibility, and I think what's plaguing the universe and humanity right now is the idea that we are that responsible. Like, we are that responsible. It's hard. There's a lot of things that take responsibility from us. We've been trained in a world that takes responsibility from us. We rely on so many things outside of us to, here, take this so I don't have to deal with it. If we flip that around and said, give it to me. I want to grow. I want the challenge. Though all the people that take that road of, I'm going to take the challenging road, they're the ones we celebrate. We celebrate those people every time. Every time. People who climb Everest, you look on the outside and go, why the fuck would you do that? There's a laundry list of people who are dead because of it. You can pass by them walking up the damn hill.
Still there.
Yeah, some of them are still there. Why would you do this? Because I want to see if I can do it. And if I can do that, what else is next? That's where the rubber meets the road for me. And that's why everything that's happened throughout my entire existence here so far, once I got clear on the fact that I couldn't go anywhere and I can't heal this the easy way, doing it the hard way became a gift of strength, of fortitude, of more life, no matter how hard it gets. It's just, you gain strength. If you choose, I'm getting strength from this. I'm growing stronger. It's a hard life to live. It's a hard concept to buy into, like I said again, and I'll say it a million times. In a world that everything's easy, it's a really hard concept to buy, because we can watch other people have really successful lives, really easy, really fanciful, like really awesome lives.
I think that's part of the problem too, in my opinion. I think that that's part of the problem too, of just like, I talk about this a lot, of just like, man, I just feel like everyone else just gets it.
Yeah,
You know, I feel like everyone else just gets it. Everyone just gets all of these things, and everyone just understands how to make like money off of Instagram, and like how everyone just like gets how to do the things. And I know like you share a very similar feeling too, and I'm just like, well, what the fuck? Like, like, how, like, did I miss something? Oh, and then I'm reminded of just like, oh no, bitch, it's because you were busy dealing with all of this other shit. You didn't get that silver spoon. You didn't get X, Y, and Z. You didn't get all of that stuff.
And what we get to see is a carefully curated version of someone's life. Not everybody is willing to share what it actually took to get them there. In fact, most who are the biggest and most successful don't want to share that piece, because if we figure it out, it doesn't even mean that we'll come up and be competition. It might mean that you take a little bit of the glory out of the holy shit, the pedestal we hold them on. We don't know truly what people have to do to get to where they are. What kind of sacrifices, what kind of soul selling that they have to do. We don't know. We really don't. And when we watch these carefully curated lives now on our little fucking phones, it makes it seem like what you just said. What do they know that I don't know? Instead of saying, what do they know that I don't know? What were they willing to do that I'm not willing to do? Some of those things have legitimate reasons why, yes, I'm not willing to do that. I have a different version of myself that I hold true to my heart. That doesn't feel right in my heart. I'm not going to do that. The other side of that is holy shit, that's scary as fuck. The potential for failure and loss is so high. The potential for ridicule is so high. Oh my God, my whole family, everybody around me will know and see through me if I make this choice. There are people out there that are successful, and they saw that big bucket of scary and went, I'm going to do it. It's because in their heart, the success is what they craved, and it didn't matter everything in that barrel of, oh no, they might see me for who I really am. It didn't matter to them. They were like, I'm going to win. And they do, and they win. Some tell about it, most don't. The ones who tell about it, we trust, and we celebrate, and we invest in. We invest our time, our money, and our energy in. I know that's how I operate. People who are vulnerable, they show me the real them. I know what it took for them to get to that place. Even if it's kind of icky at times. You're like, wow, you did what? Like, that's fucking terrible, dude. Like, why would you do that? Like, yeah, it is fucking terrible. I regret it every single day. But I'm here now, and I will make repairs in my life to make up for that moment of making a poor choice. We're gonna make them. That's, I think, a big deal that we have to get comfortable with. We are going to make choices somewhere along the lines here that we're gonna look back at and go, I fucking regret that. The whole fucking thing of no regrets is bullshit.
Such bullshit.
It's the biggest load of bullshit. So many people who actually succeed have had to make choices that they were caught in between. I don't like this one and I don't like that one. But if I don't do this one, I don't do that one, I don't go anywhere. So I got to pick one of these two. And I'm going to regret both of them.
Yeah.
Shit.
I think too, someone had asked me yesterday of like, I had filmed a podcast. I was on someone's yesterday, and he had asked me, he was like, oh, well, you know, do you regret anything and like the way that you've done it, or like what's a decision that you didn't like, or like something like that. And it's like, first of all, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
we don't have time for this. Second of all, like, we don't have time for this. But in my experiences, I think that there can be a line of like, I don't like the decision that I'm going to make right now, but this is the best decision that I could have made at the time with what I had.
Bingo.
And it's not necessarily one that, I did something for like a small like satisfaction, or to get this or to get that, and like I'll regret it later, but I like it now.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, well, I don't like any of these decisions I have to make, and I particularly don't want to make any of them, but I'm going to make the best choice with all of what I have.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I'll regret it, but also maybe I won't, because if I don't make this decision, then like you've said in your life, it happened to me, and then nothing else is going to pan out.
Yeah. Then you regret not making the decision.
And nothing else is going to pan out in the way that it would have if I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I don't know, regret is kind of strange to me, because it's just like, do I regret some stuff? Yeah, fucking of course. But if I didn't do it, and I wouldn't have what I have now, so do I regret it?
Mm-hmm. That's
not really, you know, like,
boom.
Not really.
And what is that? That's a choice point.
Yeah.
If you look back, I can look back at a million things that I quote unquote regret. But I've made a choice to, instead of letting that define the way that I feel in a negative way, I let it define the way that I've been able to make better choices post looking back at those and going, whoa, wow, that was a bad move. I don't like that person. I wish I could go back and talk to that person now and tell them that this is not a good idea. This is like, this thing that you're about to do is really gross. And like the 80-year-old version of you is not going to like this at all. Yeah. But I can't. But what I can do is I can change the past by looking at it and going, thank God that that happened that way now, or back then. So now I can look at that back then moment and go, woof, I never would have done that. Well, yeah, you know that now.
Right.
But then you, like what you just said, it was the thing you thought to do. Alex Hormozy, and we've had a conversation about it, but he says something, and I like it. He talks to the version of the 80-year-old self. He has a conversation. He imagined his 80-year-old self, and he says, how would my 80-year-old self deal with this situation right now? How would it tell me what I'm doing right now? And when you go that far, and you think of that version of yourself, it gives a lot of ability to take a moment right now, and it allows you to take it apart in a totally different way. Because what might seem like a good idea, all of a sudden now doesn't. What might seem like a really bad idea, it's like, yeah, but no one's going to give a shit about this when I'm at this stage. So let's give it a shot and see what happens. Because if I say no just because I'm worried about what Tom, Dick, and Harry are going to think about a week from now, and I don't do it, then 80 years from now, when I look back at that choice point and I didn't make it because I was worried about Tom, Dick, and Harry, who aren't even alive anymore, we're going to think about it.
Yeah.
I just robbed myself of this entire experience that I could have had. Like I said, the worst thing that's going to happen is death. That's the worst thing that's going to happen. So once you're gone, you're gone. Ridicule, yeah, it sucks. Looking foolish, yeah, it sucks. Having people slander your name and feel like you're not a good human, it all sucks. It really does. Think of some of the people on this planet who have done god-awful things, and they fix their lives. They write a book, or they fucking do something special, and then they get celebrated. And that thing that was sickening and disgusting, and like the whole world at the moment was like, you are the biggest disgusting piece of shit that exists. And then they come into this new light and they take all of that disgustingness and they turn it into something beautiful. I mean, we use shit, actual shit, to plant a seed in the ground, and that shit grows a beautiful flower. It sucks, but this is the things that humans have to go through that, like I said, nature just doesn't have to experience. We have a unique way of being here on this planet that the hardest thing that we have to go through is the viewpoints and the decisions that other people have about us. But truthfully, at the end of the day, I'm the only one that lives in this skin. I'm the only one that feels these emotions. Other people might feel the byproduct of them, but I fucking live with them. And I can make so many choices. Even after I make a bad one, I have so many more to still make as long as I hang here and fight through the darkness that tries to pull me into a place where it makes me feel like I'm less than. Every human being goes through that battle. Take on the battle of your dark side. Know that it just wants you to stay put. That's all it does. It wants you to stay put, and it wants to take the keys from your car, and it wants to go, I got you, homie. I'm going to drive you. Nah, I'm going to take the keys. I don't know where I'm going. I could accidentally drive off a cliff. I really could. I don't know. But the chances of you driving me someplace that I don't want are higher than if I'm sitting in the driver's seat using my eyes and I'm making decisions based upon if I take the wrong left, then I'll take the right. If I take the right, just make the new decisions. As long as you don't drive off the end of the cliff, you stay vigilant, stay focused, get comfortable with the idea that you're going to fuck up, push yourself into discomfort, do it. Be uncomfortable, because if you are, no one can make you uncomfortable because you made you uncomfortable. It's a unique existence here, being a human. It really is. But I feel like there's a reason we're all going through these opportunities to make choices. Because as we make good choices, we can watch how we learn from it. And one of my favorite sayings is, each one teach one. And a rising tide raises all ships. As long as you learn from your mistakes, you're authentic and real about them. You don't try to hide them. Be fucking real about them. Share them with people. Let them know that you're a human too. We will all grow together. That's how it works. When you try to play the I'm perfect, I'll find you. We're seeing it play out in real time. Look at P. Diddy. Said it a million times. Everybody thought, I just watched the documentary on him. People thought he was amazing for what he could do for his culture and everything. And once the crack opened and the blood started coming out, there was no running from it. And now we all know. And the best thing he could do, there it goes. That's our hour and 35 minutes. The best thing he could do, cancel.
It's okay. Can you just look at the phone right there and just see if it's all still good?
Yep, we're still good.
Okay. Sorry about that.
It's okay. That was funny. The best thing he could do, and this is going to sound fucked up, come out and be 100% real about every dark, sinister, nasty, sick fucking thing that people are calling you out for. If it's real, just admit it. Because finding it out is way worse. It's way worse. It's such a shitty road to be on when someone thinks that you're great and then they find out you're not, and then you lie about it consistently until they fully find out that you're just lying. Now I don't trust you, and I think you're a piece of shit. I won't listen to your music anymore. It just is a trail of tears after. Just be as real as you possibly can. I'm gonna fuck up again in this life. I'm a dad. I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing. I got a little girl. I don't know what I'm doing. I ask myself every day, am I doing this right? I don't think so. I might be doing this wrong. I'm going to do the best that I can. And one day I will sit down and have a conversation with her and let her know that Daddy didn't know what he was doing. I didn't. I did the best that I possibly could. You can tell me what you thought was good. You can tell me what you thought was bad. But I did everything I thought I could. Remember the story that I told in here that day? I could hide that story from the world. But instead, I tell people, and I told you all that night, because it's important to recognize that I'm a fucking human being that doesn't really know what the fuck I'm doing. But through that story, I not only learned, but anybody else who doesn't have kids might remember that story someday when they have their 3-year-old sitting on a counter, literally making them go fucking insane. And they'll want to tear them off the counter like I did, and then possibly hurt them. But they'll remember, oh my God, that guy told me that story that time, and I don't need to do this. They learned from my mistake. Authenticity, man.
Yeah, I'm always so, I don't know, impressed with everyone after you do your breath work and everything. Just like, I don't know, it's just always so impressive to me how vulnerable people, how vulnerable people will allow themselves to be.
Me too.
And it's really great. Yeah, and I think also too, you, and I know so many people, even Christopher said this or whatever, it's just like, I think, I don't want to say I think, I know, like you said, because of all the shit that happened for you, not necessarily to you, but you know, it happened for you, of, I know so many people have said this of like, man, you just have the ability to make me feel so comfortable. And you just have the ability to make me feel so safe, or make me feel so, you know, I don't have to like tough it out with you. Like, you know, I can just be. And I think that is part of, like, you are destined for this sort of thing.
Thank you.
Because you have that ability. People say that to me too, and my clients or whatever. And I'm just like, I don't believe you, but okay. Like, that is a me problem of just like, but if you only knew the shit that I deal with, or if you only knew X, Y, and Z, you probably wouldn't think that. But I'll let you believe that now.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like, that's really sweet of you, and I'll let you believe that. But yeah, I don't know. I think people like you, like, you know, people that we encounter in this sort of space, it's like, it's really like, that is your gift, you know?
Thank you. And it's only because I allowed it to be. And that's the thing that I want to, hopefully people get out of this, is that, you know, you can really help the world just by being real about your mistakes and being real about your follies, and also being okay with fucking up and actually getting excited for it, to know that it's an opportunity to grow. It's an opportunity to grow.
I love that. I was telling him the other day, or I think I had said something of just like, oh man, in my training, in my martial arts training with my instructor and everything, like, I just recently started learning something brand new that I've never done before. Literally, the only person I've ever seen do this particular thing is my instructor. I've never seen anybody do this before, and now I'm now getting to learn the thing, right? And I love, like, I do get frustrated sometimes when I'm not, like, good at something, or when I can't get it right away.
Sometimes.
I do.
Every time.
Okay. I do get frustrated sometimes.
It's cute.
It's okay though, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I also really love that though. Like, I made a whole video this morning or last night or whatever. Maybe it was this morning. I can't tell, but of me, like, really fucking it up. Like, I was dropping shit. Like, but it's so fun. Like, I love that grind of not being, like, really good at something, and then, like, oh man, I fucking did that shit. And like you said, my future self in 2 years from now, a year and a half, 3 years, however long it fucking takes, it's gonna be like, hey, remember that time you sucked at that thing? And now you're, like, really good at it. You know?
You'll be bored.
And you're learning it.
That's what's crazy about it, is that you get good at something, and eventually along the lines, I got to figure out something else. Challenges are what we thrive on. It's what we thrive on. If we didn't challenge ourselves, we'd still be prehistoric man. Because we needed to figure out the next stage. It's what this thing is just a computer that thrives off of nuance. It wants nuance.
Yeah, and I think too, like, a lot of people have that thing of, like, well, explain something or whatever, it's like, well, can you show me, or can you like teach me how to do it, or like, I don't want you to do it for me, like I want to do it with you so that way I know how to do it.
Yeah.
And I can, self-educate myself,
Yeah.
and gain knowledge, because it's like, well, I want to know shit too, you know what I mean? And to not have fucking Chad do everything for me all the time. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But
and those, like, I'm so glad you brought that up, because we have tools. It's cool to use tools. It'd be very foolish for me to have a hammer here and have a rock here and have a nail here and go, yeah, I'm going to use the rock. I have the tool. I'm going to use it. But I know that if I didn't have the tool, I'm also going to use the rock. I'm not just going to go, well, not going to hammer that nail in because, yep, I mean, it's a rock, yeah, but I fucking don't have a hammer.
Yeah.
You got to be able to be adaptable. You have to be able to know that if you lean on everything as a means of doing it, and don't allow the possibilities of other things coming in, then when the fucking means of doing it go away, you will not stretch. We won't challenge ourselves to figure out, how can I do it? I deal with this with my students in breath work, to the people who are becoming facilitators all the time. They do not want to push themselves. They don't want to go to a place where they go, I'm going to challenge myself to try to do this. So they text me and they ask me to give them the answer. And these are grown adults.
Yeah.
Grown adults. I get it. It's simpler to ask me. But so many times I think to myself, we live in the age where information is at your fingertips. Before you ask me, challenge your mind. Go hunt it down. I would rather you send me your research as to how you couldn't find the answer. I've been doing this. Can't get to the answer. Can you give it to me now? Fuck yeah. Here it is. I've already gone down that road. But if you come to me and you say, I don't know how to click this link right here. Okay. I'm not going to show you how to click the link. I'm sorry. I'm not. Because you didn't even attempt. You just couldn't do it. And you hunted for something else to do it for you. Instead of hunting for something else to do it for you, hunt for a way to figure it out. And if you can't, in the long run of it, if you genuinely can't, that's when you hunt for help.
I think too, a part of just that like figuring it out yourself type of thing is a creativity. And I feel like very creative people, like, well, how can I make this work? Or like you said, I have all these things, but like, okay, well, how am I going to do this thing? Like, I think that maybe some people don't have that creative imagination, or maybe it's just like suppressed a little bit because they're so used to, well, I can just ask so-and-so, or so-and-so will take care of it, or oh this, or oh that, or whatever the case may be. And it's like, well, where's your creativity? Like, do the best that you can, you know?
I think it's the suppression that you just said.
Yeah.
That just hit real hard. I don't mean to cut you off, but it hit hard in the sense that, again, I'll go all the way back to that survival place. People who feel inept, okay, you throw them, they go on a hike. They have everything they need. They got their kick-ass backpacks, super sweet shoes, got their headphones on with their music. They get lost. A couple days go by, they have the resources that they need, but then they run out of the resources that they had in their backpack, all the stuff. They hit a point where survival mode kicks in. I think at that survival point, that's when that creative, the person who claims that they're not creative, if you truly do not want to die,
right, you'll figure it out.
You're going to figure something out. We all have it in us. But again, the easier things get, the less likely you're going to stretch yourself to a place of saying, I'm going to try to figure this out. And that's why, again, I will advocate for it a million times. Put yourself in stressful situations before life puts you in a stressful situation and you don't have the mechanisms to deal with it. It sounds foolish to people when I tell them I fucking do some of the stuff that I do. Why would you do that? You don't have to. You don't have to do that. We have heat. It's the 21st century. You could just sit in your house.
Or at least don't waste an opportunity if life does put you in it.
Yeah. If
I
it
forget
gives you
where-
the hard
I
shot.
forget where it was or who it was, but what's the word? It's never waste a good. I can't think of the word.
Like adversity or something.
Yeah, never waste a good challenge. Never waste a good mistake.
Think of it in like 7 hours.
But I totally understand what you're saying. Like you can't.
Calamity or something that means something similar to that. It's
Yeah.
not the word, but
Yeah, don't like everything has the opportunity for growth in it. It all does. Yeah. Yeah.
Never waste a good crisis.
Yes, I agree with it. I agree with it, dude. But put yourself there. Put yourself there. The reason people go, you ain't going to run a marathon until you've trained. And if you do, the chances of you being able to actually do the marathon without training, very slim. But the people who trained, they put themselves in the difficult situation before it got there. They're like, why would you run 26 point whatever miles for so many days when you already, you know you're going to have to do it and you know how hard it's going to be? Well, newsflash, if I do that 3,000 times before the one day that I do it, by the time I get to the one day where it actually counts, it'll be a breeze. I will have overcome so many of the possible challenges and the possible things that could happen that if something else shows up in that run, I'll be ready to deal with it. But trust me, you got someone who sat on a couch for fucking the past 5 or 6 years and you tell them to go out and run to go get something and they stub their toe, I can't run anymore. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Figure it out. Because if you don't, the lion's going to get you. Put a lion behind that motherfucker. The broken toe ain't going to mean shit. They're going to keep running. No matter what. Even if they trip and fall, they're going to get up and they're going to keep running because they don't want the lion to come and eat them.
There's this guy who has a talk literally using that exact analogy. And I know people talk about it a lot, but it's Elliot something. I'm not sure. But he has this talk. I used to actually listen to it while I was running because it was just like, I don't know, it just activated this like primal thing in my brain where it's like, I'm gonna run faster. But he talks about like, you know, a lion, does it go after like the beefiest, strongest, like looking gazelle of the herd or whatever you fucking call that? Or does it go with the one that's a little more like left behind and like moving slow and can't really like do much on its own? And, you know, it's gonna go after that one.
Hell yeah, the one that gives up.
Yeah, and that's just kind of what I, you know, think about or try to.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
That says that. He's a motivational speaker.
Yes, he's a black gentleman. I think he has glasses.
Yeah, he kills.
Elliot's something.
Yeah,
I could be wrong, but
he rips.
yeah,
He's got a real raspy voice. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I listen to him a lot.
Yeah.
But that's it. Like these people who have done all that stuff, all the things that we've talked about, these people who make the choice to face. I just got a really beautiful picture from one of my students, and it's a picture of a buffalo. And that picture of the buffalo is covered in snow.
Yes.
The buffalo, when a storm comes, they turn and they face the storm and they walk through it. The cows walk away from the storm and the storm follows them the whole time. They never get away from it. It just follows them until it finally goes over them. And so they live in the storm way longer. But the buffalo goes, fuck that, turns around, goes through it, and on the other side is greener pastures. They make the choice to dig into the hard part of it because they know it'll be temporary. They know that they'll grow stronger through it. And when they get to the other side, the reward is there's your greener pastures that they get to eat. In fact, it's fertiler, greener pastures because the storm's already gone over it. That's our opportunity. And I'll say it a million times. As long as we stay, if we turn and face what's our fears are, we turn and face our adversities, we challenge ourselves before life challenges us. When the challenges show up unexpectedly, we'll be like, I've been doing this shit. Let's go. I ain't gonna like it. Probably gonna get hurt. Cuts, bruises, bumps. But you ain't gonna kill me. You ain't gonna take me down. And once you get excited about that idea that you can do this for yourself, the darkness that we were talking about this whole time, this negative self-talk that I don't deserve, I shouldn't be here. This is all happening because of some curse that that's been bestowed upon me. All of that shit goes away because you realize, oh fuck, I'm going to stand at the top of my mountain, knowing that I turned and faced all that shit and grew from it. Instead of it, something dragging me to the top, bumped and bruised, and just going, well, I made it to the top now. It's time to keel over and die. Like, fuck that. I get one opportunity to live in this fucking flesh. I can make the choice to go down the dark side of it and think that life is literally here out and out to get me. And then when the day comes that it's all over, I'm filled with regret. I'm filled with frustration and remorse and hatred and all of that. Or I can slide in, bumped, bruised, broken, beat up, and going, man, what a hell of a ride. Like, I did it all. And I've been through it. I've gone. I'm not perfect. I didn't win every round, but I also didn't lose in the end. I won at the end. Unfortunately, my homie Mike, he lost. It sucks. He lost. And not only did he lose, he created a wave that caused a lot of other people to lose after that. So it's this existence, this game that we have called being a human. You're going to have the greatest days of your life, and you're going to have the worst days of your life. The worst days of your life are actually the best, most fertile ground to make more great days. It's real shaky and tough concept. But when we shift the focus to that dark allows me to see light. If it was a bright ass fucking light, you ever try to shine a flashlight during the day? Can't see shit. Don't do nothing. Turn it on at night, that beam of light can go all the way what looks like to the fucking moon. Because the tiniest pinhole of light is visible in the darkest of rooms. But if everything's shiny and bright, no one's going to see you. You ain't even going to see yourself. You got to go through dark times, and you got to hunt for the light in those dark times. Walk towards it and let it build you. Let it fill you. Welcome it. Welcome it. Fucking have love for yourself. Big deal. Have love for yourself, even if you hated yourself forever. Even if you've done some of the most terrible things. Find love for yourself, because you are the only one living inside of you. You're the only one experiencing you. And the relationship that you have with yourself directly builds the relationships you have outside of you. Always. Eventually, if you hate yourself, it'll bleed into the relationships outside of you, and people will feel it, and they will eventually, you'll see them peel off. Again, I hate to say it, but as I love my father, great human being. I've had people tell me how great he was at one point, but because he hates on himself and thinks that life is constantly dragging him away and thinks that everything's happening to him, he has repelled the closest people in his life to him. His mother, his brothers, his sons. It's hard to be around him because he's refusing to see that all of the shit that you think is happening to you, you are causing by not wanting to face it and playing this victim that I just get fucked. Stand on your fucking horse, do something about it, and fix it. You only are the only one who can. I can only fucking bring you so many gifts to fix it. And if you don't take them, eventually I'm going to stop bringing you gifts. I can't waste my energy on it anymore. I got my own life to live. That's the hardest part, is that you will get help to a point, but you won't get it forever if you don't take the help. You've got to take it, accept it, love it, appreciate it, and then start looking at yourself in the mirror and be like, I think it's time we start helping ourselves here. I think it's time that me and you have a conversation now. We start helping ourselves get better. Because I don't think the gift train's going to come anymore. It might be until you're fucking 60, 70 years old, but one day the gift train will stop, and then they'll put your ass in a home, and you'll sit in your little wheelchair and fucking crochet or play fucking checkers all goddamn day. And you get some asshole nurse who comes and is like, you ready for me to wipe your ass today? Then you see the 90-year-old guy who decided, I'm going to fucking to have the greatest, I'm going to still keep doing my shit. And fucking doing pull-ups at 90 at the gym. How are you still doing this? Because I love myself. It's not conceit. It's not conceit. It's an understanding that this vessel, this ship, this car, this vehicle that we live in, we get one trip around in this one. We might get another one, but newsflash, you ain't going to remember the last one you were in. You're only going to remember the one that you're in at the moment. You might get little sprinkles of remembrance from the last one, but you will not get that visceral memory of like, I was in another body at one time and it sucked and I'm in this new one and it's great. No. You got to love when you're here. You got to love it to the fullest. And when you do, it'll all pan out for better, even when you're going through the dark times. It just will. It really will.
This is wonderful.
This is fire.
This is so good.
Yeah, high five. Let's go. Let's go. Yes.
Before we wrap up, is there anything that you want to like shamelessly plug?
Yeah, absolutely. Teach breath work. Do classes here at Driven.
You'll be here this month?
Yes, I'll be here this month. I also teach classes at a place called Blackington Arts, which is in Attleboro, Massachusetts. These sonic neural breath works are huge. And I think the biggest thing that I really, really want to let people know is that I am here as a coach to help you break through what it is that you don't think you can break through. Because I've been through enough stuff now to see people see the walls they create for themselves. And my job as a mindset coach is to help you realize that it's a simple shift in perspective that can take you from having to climb a mountain to having to go, oh shit, I can actually just go through this bitch and get all of the strength necessary from that big mountain. And you just get the strength of the mountain. So reach out to me if you are struggling. I do free calls to start to build a strategy. Let's figure out what's going on, and if it's right for you, I'm here for you, and we'll take you on those programs and get you to the other side. Yeah. You can go to my website www.longalifecoaching.com. Follow me on Instagram, which is @longalifecoaching. I'm gently moving away from Facebook at the moment, just because it's too much lately. It's too much lately, and I like Instagram a lot more. If you want to see the content that I put out, it'll be on Instagram. I try to put as much of this stuff packaged into small motivational talks that I possibly can to help you be a better person and live the life that you actually and truly want to live. Yeah.
And we'll see you in like a couple weeks.
Yeah. Can't fucking
We'll
wait.
see you soon. We'll see you sooner than that.
Yeah.
I think Christopher's going to see you on Sunday.
Yeah, buddy.
Think so.
Let's go. It's going to be good. We got a few good guys coming in. Yes, that's another thing. I also run a brotherhood called the Tomahawk Brotherhood. The purpose of this brotherhood is to have a group of men that can share vulnerably and feel comfortable to do so without the inkling or the feeling that their other brother across the way is judging them or is going to tear them down. Because we need that as men to feel safe around our brothers, because that's truly what makes us a strong unit to be able to go out and hunt life and build something great. And it builds better men on this planet. Less violent, angry, sadistic men. Trust me, I've been on the other side of that, and I was one until I found a group of men that I felt safe with. So,
yeah. I sometimes forget, because that like fellowship aspect of things is something I've just experienced in my own recovery for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been such a huge aspect. It is absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
To just my daily existence.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been a really long time since the thought of sharing one-on-one or in a group of people I know or in a group of people that I don't know. It has been a very, very long time since I've ever doubted my ability to do that, the usefulness of it. And I've also, it's not uncommon in recovery circles to hear like, oh, I wish regular people could have something like this. Because if you stick around long enough, you start to realize just how important it is. and the changes that can be experienced. And I think one of the earliest gifts is like other people seeing the changes in you, or in me, where like I didn't feel like I was changing much. I didn't feel like much was happening. But then, and I think this has just been my experience over and over and over again, is it's usually other people that are seeing the changes first. But I wouldn't have known that had I not kept going. Kept going and kept going and kept going, and like opening up a little bit here and there, here and there, here and there. Or even, it was mind-boggling. I remember the first time somebody just like saw me, and I saw that they saw me. Was I was going to this same meeting week after week, and it was twice a week. I remember the second week I went there. So it was like, let's say like a Wednesday night you go, and then a Saturday night you go. And then I was like, all right, well, I'll go to this thing next Wednesday. And I walked in, and it was all the same people from the previous Wednesday. And I was like, oh crap. These are all the same people. They're going to know that I'm new. They're going to know I've only been here once before. Like, it just didn't occur to me. But a few weeks of that, maybe a few months, you know, I'm just like, I sneak in right at the last minute, and I leave first, second. You know? I got in, and somebody stepped in front of me and asked me like, hey, how you doing? You know, I'm good. Didn't realize that like, I shook his hand, but like I was looking at his belt buckle maybe, you know, just like couldn't see it, like just couldn't reach eye to eye. And I went to like get by him to grab a chair, and he stepped in front of me. Are you? And just so calmly and so lovingly just said, are you ready to tell us how you're really doing? Are you ready to tell me how you're really doing? And it was like, like it was a lot of feelings all at once. Had I not, just the power of just showing up.
Man.
So like, I haven't been to one of these groups, and it makes me so happy that you're doing it, because when I heard that you were doing it, I immediately started like having all these thoughts that I'm expressing now, but then also like, oh man, like these are normal people doing this thing. And like, I can't wait to just see what other people can get from this type of group.
And I'm so excited that you're doing it. I'm just like so excited for you. Like that just, it just makes me so happy. And it just, I don't know. I love this, and I love that you're here, and I love all of this. And I feel so lucky, and I'm not even doing it. Like I'm not even going. Like I'm not even doing.
A byproduct.
I'm not even.
There is
doing
a byproduct of it,
but I feel so like I just love it, and thank you so much for doing this and for being here. And
thank you for having me.
I have a feeling that this is probably just going to be like Longa part 1.
I'm down to do this all over again with even more fervor and even more fire. There's so much to talk about. It's so
wonderful, and I feel like it's been like 2.5, 3 hours ish, which is great. I hope my phone isn't dead for 1, and for 2, I think
still lit up, so
we should be good. You should be good.
But I feel like when you talk about stuff like this with people that you love, that I love and care about, or whatever, and things that are very important, it goes so fast, you know. And that's why it's just like, this is
time dilates.
This is just, I know, this is just part 1. But thank you so much, and thank you for doing all that you do, not just like for Driven, but for me and for Christopher and for all of us and my entire family. Really, you know what I mean? Like my whole family.
That's honestly my honor, and it's a very much a privilege. I'm grateful that I was chosen to do. I feel like it was. I feel like I was chosen to go through a lot of the things in my life, and go through those things and grow through those things, so that way I could share this knowledge with people and help them truly understand there is light in the dark. It's here.
You've turned it into a usefulness.
Dude, I can't wait till you come to the men's group, because when you just said something a few minutes ago, it's so funny. It's like some of the guys there that were sharing that day, like I've been friends with my buddy Clint forever, and didn't know. I mean, what was his name again that he has? It's like it's a female name, and he told us all that that's his real name, and we were like, I'm like, holy shit, Clint! I didn't know that was. And he's like a fucking like a cabinet builder, like a man's man. And I forget, what is his name? Shit, I can't even remember because I've known him as Clint my whole life. But that's what I'm saying. It's like you see these things and these men that just open up and they go, yeah, this is actually who I am. You're like, oh, okay, cool. You're not what I was thinking in my head that makes me feel littler than I am. You actually are me. You're just like me. Holy shit. And that, the more and more I did that, coming from a kid who was molested, who fucking feared type A males, feared them. And then the first one that came up to me that was this big burly motherfucker was like, hey, that shit happened to me too. And it's like, whoa. And they all of a sudden went from me feeling like I was down here and they were feeling like up there and just eye to eye. We're the same people now. And now we can have those kind of conversations where we're brothers. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got pain. Everybody's got trauma. No one's perfect, especially us men. We need what we're about to do on Sunday. It's such an important place.
Maybe we should do one after.
Yeah.
Like, no, I mean, obviously not the day, but maybe like the next week or two, you could
talk about it.
You could come on if you wanted, and you could just like,
you guys
could share your experience. You don't obviously have to share anybody else's, but you could share your experience. You could talk about it.
I love that.
I think it'd be awesome.
Yeah, it'd be good for people to feel the feeling that you get to have, because it'll be authentic and you get to express what it feels like to re-enter that space of vulnerability with people you don't know.
Sure.
You know, that's a real big deal. It'd be good too. Like, I'll come back from Sedona. We'll do that.
Yeah.
Sedona's going to be dope.
Yeah.
Y'all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm so grateful. This is fun. Let's go. High five. Yeah. Peace, y'all.